The diner was nearly empty, the kind of late-night lull when even the jukebox gave up humming. Neon buzzed against the window, casting the linoleum floor in a soft pink glow. Jack Callahan wiped down the counter with slow circles, his mind drifting. Outside, the Oregon coast slept under a pale sky, waves hitting the shore in steady rhythm. He liked nights like this. Quiet. Predictable. No one asking for anything except another refill. The bell above the door jingled. Jack glanced up, expecting one of the regulars stumbling in after a late shift. Instead, he saw a tall, thin man step inside. Something about him was off. The stranger's posture was too stiff, his walk precise, as though each movement had been rehearsed. His clothes were plain enough, dark jacket, slacks, but the cut didn't sit right, too sharp, too clean for a sleepy coastal town. The man paused just inside, scanning the room with a measured gaze before walking straight to the counter. "Evening," Jack said, tossing the rag aside. "Coffee?" The man inclined his head. His voice was deep, oddly formal. "Yes. That will be sufficient." Jack poured a cup, sliding it across. The stranger didn't touch it at first. He studied Jack, as if weighing something. "You are local?" the man asked. Jack raised an eyebrow. "Born and raised, yeah? Why?" "I seek directions." The man leaned slightly closer. "Where does your species keep its command centers? Where do your fleets gather?" Jack blinked. For a moment he thought he misheard. "Our fleets?" "Yes." The man's eyes glinted strangely in the neon light. "Your war fleets. The heart of your defenses. Where is this located?" Jack let out a short laugh. "Buddy, you're a little late to the party. Closest thing you'll find around here is the old naval yard outside town. Been abandoned for decades." The man's expression didn't change. "You will describe this location." Jack leaned on the counter, half amused, half curious. "All right. Head out of town on Highway 6, take the third exit. You'll see a rusted chain-link fence, big sign that says no trespassing. Doesn't stop the gulls, though. Nothing but broken docks and seagulls out there." He smirked. "Not much of a tourist spot." The man's eyes narrowed, as though committing every word to memory. "This is your central command?" Jack chuckled. "If by command you mean a bunch of rats and busted ships, sure. That's the place." For the first time, the stranger touched the coffee. He lifted the mug with both hands, awkwardly, as if imitating rather than knowing how to hold it. He sipped, grimaced faintly, and set it back down. Jack watched him. Something about this guy's demeanor was strange. Not dangerous, just wrong. His language too stiff, his questions too pointed. Probably some conspiracy nut, Jack figured. Coast towns attracted them now and then. "You planning to write a book or something?" Jack asked, half joking. The man didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket, pulling out what looked like a thin silver disc. He held it at chest level, and a faint hum passed through the air. Jack frowned. "You okay there?" The disc glowed faintly before vanishing back into the jacket. The man stood. "You have been helpful." Jack snorted. "Glad I could be of service. Enjoy the naval yard. Don't let the gulls mug you." The stranger's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. He turned sharply and walked to the door, movements precise as clockwork. The bell jingled again as he stepped into the night. Jack shook his head, muttering, "Weirdest tourist I've ever met." He poured himself another coffee, settled on the stool, and reached for yesterday's newspaper. Within minutes the man was gone from his thoughts. Far above Earth's quiet coast, in the void of orbit, the silver disk transmitted. A data pulse shot through subspace, carrying coordinates across light years. On the bridge of a vast warship, Admiral Varys stood over a glowing display. The data crystal pulsed as information flowed into their systems. He listened as the scout's voice filled the chamber. "Coordinates acquired. Human Central Command located in coastal settlement. Defenses appear minimal. Recommend immediate fleet convergence." Varys' mandibles flexed in satisfaction. The admiral turned to his officers, armored figures surrounding him in the command pit. You see? Even these primitives betray their secrets without hesitation. Their defenses crumble before they are tested. A ripple of cold laughter passed among the crew. Prepare the fleet, Varys ordered. By the next cycle, Earth's command shall be ash beneath our talons. The bridge lights dimmed as thousands of ships stirred, engines flaring to life. Back in the diner, Jack hummed to himself, tapping the counter in rhythm with the faint buzz of the neon sign. To him, the night remained ordinary. Another cup of coffee, another oddball customer, nothing more. But beyond the clouds, an armada was turning, and history had just been rewritten by a mechanic's casual directions. Stars stretched into lines, then snapped back into pinpricks as the Vryluk fleet tore through subspace. Thousands of warships materialized in formation, black holes glinting under the light of Earth's sun. Admiral Varys stood rigid on his command dais, four eyes fixed on the blue and green sphere growing in the viewport. Earth. Primitive. Unaware. His mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Deploy forward scouts, he ordered. Confirm coordinates. We will strike their heart before their defenders can even stir. Yes, Admiral, replied Captain Scarrick, bowing with practiced precision. The fleet shifted like a living organism, smaller ships darting ahead, data streams feeding into the flagship's systems. Within moments, confirmation pulsed across the command grid. The human command hub is located on their western ocean coast, Scarrick reported. Minimal structures. No energy shields detected. It appears neglected. Varys allowed himself a slow smile. Perfect. They rot in their complacency. The conquest will be a lesson to the galaxy. How empires are built upon the bones of the careless. ## on Earth. Jack Callahan squinted against the morning sun as he cast his fishing line from the dock. The gulls squawked overhead, the ocean lapped lazily at the pier, and the town behind him was just beginning to stir. He shifted his cap, muttering, "Whole yard full of seagulls, and that weirdo wanted directions there. Bet he's knee-deep in bird crap by now." His phone buzzed. A news alert flashed, *unusual atmospheric activity expected near the coast. Authorities advise calm. Jack rolled his eyes. Yeah, sure. Probably another satellite burning up. He pocketed the phone and focused on the line, oblivious to the warships assembling far above. ## back in orbit. The first Vryluk cruiser descended into low orbit, scanning the abandoned naval yard. Admiral, scans detect structures beneath the ocean surface, the sensor officer said, confusion in his tone. Energy signatures strong once. Varys frowned. Explain. Unknown constructs buried within seabeds. Grid patterns. Armored bunkers. The bridge lights dimmed as new readings scrolled across displays. Suddenly, an alarm wailed. Admiral! Hostile locks detected. Multiple sources. They are. The words cut off as beams of light lanced from the ocean below. Dozens of human orbital platforms powered up in unison, their systems uncloaked. Massive satellites rotated, lining up railgun arrays the size of skyscrapers. A moment of silence held on the Vryluk bridge. Then the void erupted. ## first engagement. A spear of molten tungsten slammed into the nearest Vryluk frigate. Shields flared, cracked, and failed. The ship broke apart in a flash of white fire. Shields failing across the line! Officers screamed. Return fire! Varys roared. Plasma bursts streaked toward the human platforms, carving contrails through the thin upper atmosphere. But for every platform struck, 3 more activated, rising from their concealed ocean silos. Railguns thundered, guided by AI precision. The Admiral's overconfidence faltered as ship after ship winked out on the tactical display. This is not possible, he snarled. These primitives cannot possess such technology. ## cut to Earth. Jack reeled in his line, checking the bait. The gulls wheeled overhead, louder than usual, unsettled. Behind him, a neighbor approached with a thermos. Morning, Jack. You hear about the lights last night? Yeah. Probably just auroras or military tests. Nothing to worry about. Jack shrugged, casting again. Above, a streak of fire flashed across the sky, one of the Vrylok ships breaking apart on re-entry. Jack didn't notice. #escalation in orbit. Admiral! Shouted the tactical officer. We are surrounded. Platforms are locking in coordinated fire patterns. Their weapons, they are beyond projections. Another Vrylok cruiser vanished in a burst of kinetic fire. Human drones swarmed, small and fast, launching from hidden carriers. They weaved through the larger warships, targeting engines, cutting supply lines. Hold formation! Varys thundered. Press the assault! But formation was collapsing. His officers exchanged uncertain glances, panic creeping into disciplined ranks. Casualties mounting, Skarik reported grimly. 30% of fleet capacity lost in under 10 minutes. Varys slammed a clawed fist onto the console. We do not retreat from prey. Yet even as he spoke, another shockwave rattled the flagship. Humanity's weapons struck harder, faster, with chilling precision. #Jack's ordinary day. By noon, Jack had packed up his fishing gear. He walked back toward the diner, humming. Local radio crackled in his truck, the host cheerfully reporting. Unusual atmospheric disturbances, explained away as testing of new satellite systems. Jack laughed. Government's always testing something. He turned up the volume, rolling through familiar streets, unaware that above him, an empire was bleeding out. #orbit, turning point. On the bridge, chaos reigned. Fires spread across consoles, officers shouted over alarms. The flagship shuddered as another salvo of tungsten rods tore through nearby ships. Admiral, permission to withdraw, Skarik pleaded. Varys' eyes blazed. Never! This is illusion, deception. Humans cannot. His words were drowned out by another explosion as a human railgun round skimmed the flagship's shields. The tactical display showed it clearly. The fleet was being crushed. #closing beat. Admiral Varys gripped the edge of his command chair, refusing to acknowledge the truth. Signal all ships. Full engagement. We will drown this planet in fire if we must. But his voice trembled as he spoke, and his officers no longer looked convinced. On Earth, Jack slid into a booth at the diner, ordered pie, and stretched. The radio droned about. Classified anomalies. And he smirked. Same old nonsense. Above him, the greatest armada of the Vrylok Empire was being dismantled piece by piece. History turned in silence, while a mechanic with grease under his nails thought only about blueberry pie. The Vrylok flagship groaned under the strain. Sparks rained from the ceiling as another railgun round scraped across its shields. The tactical display was chaos, entire wings of ships reduced to debris fields, others limping with flickering engines. Admiral Varys stood tall, but the rigidity in his posture was cracking. His officers no longer barked with confidence. They whispered, eyes darting, mandibles twitching with fear. Report, Varys growled. 70% of fleet destroyed or disabled, Skarik said, voice low. Enemy platforms remain fully operational. Their weapons, they're evolving mid-battle. Adapting. The Admiral's claws dug into the railing. Impossible. These creatures were classified as pre-industrial by our archives. Skarik hesitated. Perhaps the archives were wrong. The words landed heavier than any railgun round. The human counterstrike. From Earth's orbit, the solar defense grid shifted formation. Massive satellites pivoted like watchful eyes, releasing swarms of autonomous drones. Sleek and angular, they moved in perfect synchronization, their trails cutting patterns of white fire across the void. The drones converged on the Vrylok's flank, shredding corvettes and harrying cruisers with relentless precision. On the command frequency, human voices echoed, calm, clipped, professional. Target lock confirmed. Rail Battery 3 fire. Drone Group Sigma, engage at Vector 219. There was no panic in their tone. Just quiet efficiency, as though this was nothing more than another exercise. And for Earth's defenders, perhaps it was. # Admiral's breaking point. Varys staggered as a shockwave rocked the flagship. A cruiser beside them disintegrated under a rail slug, its carcass tumbling end over end before vanishing in flame. "Admiral, shields collapsing!" a voice shouted. He slammed his fist down. "We will not retreat!" But his defiance rang hollow. Officers exchanged looks of mutiny. The great fleet, once unstoppable, was being unmade in less than an hour. Scarrick stepped forward. "Admiral, if we remain, we perish. The Empire will lose not only ships but the knowledge of what destroyed us. We must withdraw to warn them." Varys' mandibles quivered. Rage burned in his eyes, but behind it, fear gnawed. He had imagined conquest. Instead, he had found hell waiting. Finally, he spat the word like venom. "Withdraw. # retreat of the broken fleet." The command went out. Surviving ships peeled away, limping into subspace with broken formations. Once proud war banners streamed as tatters of wreckage across the void. Varys watched as his fleet, his legacy, was torn apart. Pride collapsed into ashes. "We will return," he whispered, though even he no longer believed it. # galactic ripples. Hours later, encrypted transmissions spread across the stars. Earth is not undefended. Earth wields weapons unknown to us. Their strength is beyond measure. The Galactic Council convened in hushed chambers, representatives from dozens of species leaning forward as the data played, footage of Rylock warships annihilated by human defenses, drone swarms weaving patterns of death, rail slugs cracking capital ships like eggshells. Whispers swept the assembly. Humans? But they were primitives. No. They were waiting. Final protocol, perhaps the legends were true. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy trembled not before an empire, but before Earth. # back on Earth. Jack Callahan leaned against the counter at the diner, fork in hand, plate of blueberry pie cooling in front of him. The afternoon sun slanted through the blinds, casting stripes across the counter. On the radio, a cheerful anchor's voice filled the room. "Strange atmospheric disturbances reported overnight have been officially attributed to high-altitude satellite testing. Authorities assure citizens there is no cause for concern." Jack chuckled. "Yeah, sure. Satellites." He dug into the pie, savoring the sweetness. The bell jingled as a couple of locals wandered in. Jack greeted them with his usual easy smile, pouring coffee, sliding menus across. Outside, life continued as if nothing extraordinary had happened. # behind the curtain. Far beneath the waves, in the hidden depths of the so-called abandoned naval yard, Earth's true command center hummed with quiet energy. Screens flickered with battle replays, officers murmuring over casualty reports and strategic implications. One officer leaned back, rubbing his temples. "That was closer than I'd like." Another smirked. "Closer? We just dismantled one of the largest invasion fleets in recorded history. I'd call that a win." A third officer called up surveillance footage, the diner, Jack at the counter, talking to the strange tourist. They watched as he gave directions, utterly unaware of the consequences. "That's him," the officer said. "The mechanic. He pointed their scout right to us." The room went quiet. Someone let out a low whistle. "So we owe the guy." "More than that," another muttered. "He just redirected galactic history with a cup of coffee and some half-baked directions." # final twist. Back at the diner, Jack refilled a customer's mug, humming under his breath. Weird night, he thought. Weird guy. Still, he figured it was nothing. Just another oddball passing through. He didn't see the satellite feed overhead lock briefly onto the diner, didn't hear the quiet military voices discussing his name, his face, his file. And he would never know that across the galaxy, entire empires were rewriting their policies around one conclusion. Humans were no longer prey. They were a storm waiting to be unleashed. Closing line asterisk. Jack leaned back, wiping his hands on a rag, and muttered to himself. Weirdest tourist I've ever met.